Hi everybody, I'm Sue Ellen Clayton. Welcome to my channel where we'll be learning the tarot cards one card at a time. Today's card is number 2 in the Major Arcana, the High Priestess. I am using the Rider-Waite Tarot deck and you'll find the link below the video. I've also linked to the many books I've used for my research. In this video, we'll discuss what the High Priestess means when it appears in a reading, the symbolism of the High Priestess, the meaning of the High Priestess when it is upright and reversed, including some examples from my life, and at the end I'll provide you with some questions to help you better connect with the High Priestess. So let's get started. In this card we see a female sitting on a throne between two columns. One is gray and one is black. She is holding an open book that is the Torah, the Jewish book of law. She is wearing a cross around her neck. She has on a blue garment that seems to flow into water and has a crescent moon crown on her head. Behind her is a curtain covered with pomegranates. Between the pillars you can see water. There are yellow horns at her feet. The High Priestess is based on the female version of the Pope. She represents the unconscious mind, wisdom, intuition, enlightenment, and the divine feminine. She represents a time of going inward and deepening your relationship with your higher self. She is all about listening to your quiet inner voice and figuring out your soul's purpose. So let's talk about some symbols in the High Priestess. First of all, the pillars. These represent the pillars that are said to stand to the north and south of the door at Solomon's temple. I apologize in advance if I mispronounce the names. The black pillar is Boaz, B-O-A-Z, and that translates in Hebrew to he shall establish. The white pillar is Jachin, J-A-C-H-I-N, and in Hebrew it means in it is strength. These pillars signify duality, masculine, feminine, light, dark, intuition, logic, that kind of thing. She is holding an open book that is the Torah, the Jewish book of law. She has on a blue garment that flows into water. The blue color suggests purity and connection to spirit. The flowing into water represents the moon and the tides. The body of water represents hidden awareness. She is wearing a cross over her heart chakra, which represents spiritual connection and demonstrates her ability to manifest love in the world. It also represents her ability to keep all 4 elements in perfect balance. In tarot, the moon represents intuition, and we will talk about this in detail when we reach the moon card, which is number 18. She has a crescent crown on her head. The 3 moons represent the crown of Isis and show the 3 visible phases of the moon, waxing, full, and waning. It also represents the 3 phases of a woman's life: virginity, adulthood, and old age, also known as the maiden, the mother, and the crone. I really dislike the crone. Behind her is a veil or curtain covered with pomegranates and palm leaves. The pomegranates represent female fertility and sexuality. The palm leaves represent masculinity and assertiveness. Between the pillars you can see water, which represents emotions. Her robe is turning into water. There are yellow horns at her feet. These represent the sign of Taurus and the astrological moon. When the High Priestess appears upright in a reading, this is a very spiritual card. Don't be surprised if you get this card, as it often appears to people who are learning to trust their intuition, including people who are learning to read tarot cards. The High Priestess guards the unconscious world. Things are concealed behind her. The message is to look deeper and below the obvious. Another thing the upright card means is that you need to trust your intuition. All of the answers are inside you. The High Priestess is associated with the moon and natural cycles that include the tides, our unconscious, and female cycles such as menstruation. Priests are highly educated. This card may relate to your education. Perhaps you are learning something new or are returning to school for more education. She can represent a mentor that is in your life. And if you wait patiently, the answers will come. Finally, she can represent a new level of awareness and maybe even a spiritual breakthrough. So here's an example from my life when I first realized that I was intuitive. I was seeing a therapist who was absolutely wonderful. He was getting remarried and talked about his fiancée and their upcoming wedding occasionally during our sessions. At one point, I was talking with my family doctor about how therapy was going, and I said something like, "Yeah, he's getting married soon, and I think his fiancée was a patient." Have you ever said something that you wish you could immediately take back? That was the case. I had no idea why I would say something like that, and I didn't want to harm his reputation. I was mortified. Several years later, I learned that he had lost his license because he was having sex with patients. And, not surprisingly, his ex-patient wife divorced him. This was my first inkling that I could see behind the veil, and there was more happening than what I had been told. When the High Priestess appears reversed in a reading, it can indicate difficulty accessing your intuition or that you are ignoring a gut feeling. It can indicate you are a shallow or self-destructive person. It can indicate mistrust. Or if you can access your intuition, you have chosen to ignore it. She is also very secretive, and the reversed card can indicate that someone is lying to you or sharing secrets behind your back. You may be choosing the wrong path or listening to bad advice, or you are torn between two choices. So here's an example from my life of ignoring my gut feeling. Many years ago, I decided to work with a business coach. I chose him because he was very different than me. I tend to make friends with people quickly and easily, and I wanted someone who would hold me accountable rather than being willing to chat. Right away, I knew that we were not a good fit. He was young, male, extroverted, single, childless, and lived on the West Coast. I am older, married, have kids, and live on the East Coast. Rather than helping bring me out of my shell, he basically shamed me for not doing things the right way, which was how a young, extroverted male would do it. Yet I kept showing up and paying him twice a month for an entire year. I completely ignored my gut feeling, and it was an awful experience. I did learn a valuable lesson, although not the one I paid for. I learned to trust my gut. So here are some questions that you might want to answer to help you to connect with the High Priestess. Number 1, do you listen to your inner voice? Number 2, when have you regretted not listening to your inner voice? Number 3, how can you get better at trusting your intuition? This might include journaling, working with a teacher, reading tarot cards every day. Number 4, are you in tune with the cycles of the moon? For instance, some people feel that the new moon is a great time to go inward and recharge your batteries. Number 5, what subconscious patterns are you becoming aware of? And number 6, do you wait for answers to come or do you try to force them? So I would love you to share your answers in the comments below. And then please join me for the next video, card number 3, which is the Empress.